Did you always wanted to become a chef?
No, to be very honest. It is very common that nobody asks us what we want to do. You go to school, you graduate, now you go to university.
I think figuring out things as you go is more interesting than having a template in hand saying, okay, I'm going to do this.
You really have a pasta version everywhere you go. And whenever I travel, even before I realize that this is what I want to do and this is what I'm into, I've always wanted everything. I've always wanted to taste everything pasta. So what do? We kiss now?
Hello, you guys. I hope you are well. Today's guest is going to be talking about her love for pasta. She hosts an amazing supper club, which comes with a perfect dining experience. So yeah, let's go and meet her. Hi, Joe.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I've been wanting to have you on the podcast for a while now. And finally, the day has come. So thank you for coming.
You're very welcome. I'm very honored to be here.
It would be a fair question to ask. Did you always wanted to become a chef?
No, to be very honest. I know most chefs have the story of like, ever since I've been a little girl or a little boy, all I wanted to do is cook things.
Yeah.
I can list you a bunch of people that I know personally in this industry that at age 7, they made like, I don't know what kind of souffle and stuff. That's not my story. My mom is always very proud when I say this part. Makes her very happy, so I will have to send her this eventually. My mom has always been a very, very good cook. And not just a cook, like she likes to host and she has a great personality. She's a character. We actually have a lot in common. And she'd always make it a thing like to host lunch, whether it was just after school or on weekends, bring your friends over. Like everybody's always happy to come to her house. She was always like big on putting things together, plating and all of that stuff, right? So I just enjoyed being in the kitchen with her. I didn't necessarily have the desire to cook myself, but I had that desire to be there with my mother and help her as much as I can and just spend time with her in the kitchen. And if we paint my mother, she's not like that typical mom that just stands in the kitchen all day and cooks. My mom is gorgeous and sort of like an entertainer and stuff. So she kind of like felt off like feeding people, feeding us, you know.
It's like an open kitchen kind of a
thing. Like she always really enjoyed to like showcase her talents. And back in the days, you know, we didn't have internet except for the and like she would be at a dentist or something and there's like a magazine and she'd just like rip out a page of a recipe and then bring that home. And we didn't really have much to work with when we were younger. My dad always tried to buy everything like in bulk. And you know, typical guy, he's like, now we have many tomatoes. Now we have many potatoes. And my mom was like, okay, I guess I'll work with the potatoes and tomatoes. And she would just store everything and come up in a way. And and I, from my other 3 sisters, was always present with her in the kitchen, doing, I don't want to say the B word, the sidekick job where you think you're going to get a chance to actually cook something, but all she makes you do is like, oh, you want to help me? Can you wash these dishes? And I was like, that's not
boring.
That's not
Give me something interesting.
Give me something interesting.
Give me fire. Give me something.
But so that's kind of what happened. And I always like to eat. So ever since I've been a kid, everything that I did was related to food. Like we go on the weekend to the promenade. All my sisters are excited for like getting a bicycle, doing this and that. And I was like, the corn on the cob, like that's what I want, you know? Everything was always related to food. We're going to my grandmother's house. Everyone's excited to see grandma. I'm like, what is she gonna cook? It's always been very food related, different flavors and stuff. And especially growing up predominantly in Lebanon, I mean, we have such a nice, beautiful, rich cuisine. And then my mom, who obviously also likes to incorporate everything else from everywhere. So that was kind of like a beautiful marriage of food going on at the house. So I really just got into cooking when I sort of like moved to Dubai. And I was here and my sister was here and we just missed home food.
And this was in?
This was in Dubai. This was in like 2010.
Okay.
Like we weren't that family that would eat out.
Yes.
Like we'd eat out twice a year, or else like no, should eating out, no. So yeah, so I wasn't used to that concept. And I think also we grew up, like my mom always tried to be like, we eat fish once a week, vegetables, mainly meat and stuff, but it was always well balanced. Yeah. Like there always had to be a balance of like all other food types. Yes. So then coming here and seeing this delivery thing, and I felt like everything I ate made me ill. You know, and you think it was like, but I only ate rice and the stew and I only had this bread. But I mean, now that I've been in the industry, I understand why. But, you know, 14, 15 years ago, I was just like, no, I can't do this. And obviously, like, how do you save money if you keep just every day spending on lunch and dinner and lunch and dinner? And I mean, you know, these fast food chain restaurants, even if they're not like fast food, but like just these, okay, I'm not going to mention any names, but whatever, you know, your go-to restaurant in the area that you work in, nobody controls how much oil goes in their butter or if the vegetables are washed or not. Like I've seen sometimes go like, okay, guys, we got to have service. Just put the food out there, you know, and then things like E. coli go around and all these beautiful
mostly
things.
Frozen things as well.
Frozen things. It's just, I know that this industry is fast-paced, so it's almost very hard to like, you know, meet like at a price point, but also be healthy and you know, mindful. So yeah, I was just like, Janet, we're gonna start making food at home. And then it would be like, let's make kefta like mom does. Let's say this like mom does, like this like mom does. So all I constantly did is just mom sent me recipes. And like literally I have my album in my phone, my mom's recipes when I ask her for something. They're all written like on a piece of paper. And mostly it says some garlic, some onion. I was like, but how much is some? You
Mothers have this thing of just picking up stuff and just putting it in the pot, even though they don't know what's the measurements, it still turns out yum.
Exactly. And this something, you know, is just, and then you do it. And I would do this one dish, for example, 5 years in a row, and it wouldn't taste the same. And she was like, you didn't add enough of this. I was like, Mom, but why don't you try to like nail down the proportions, right? So that's really how it started. And then I realized it wasn't just about making lunch or making dinner. And then I also saw the joy of like, you know, making it a thing with friends. So honestly, at least once a week, I was like, guys, come on over and we all just make a meal. I'm also a bit of a control freak, so I don't really let people help me in the kitchen. So they're like, let's help. And I see them peel the onion the wrong way. I was like, no, sit down. It's okay. I will do it. So I kind of just naturally fell into the role of like hosting, you know, getting better at dishes, and then kind of like, it kind of happened naturally that I developed a liking to it.
But did you think at that point that there was a possibility for you to have this as a...
For now, no, because I also work in media and advertising, and that is a very demanding job. You don't really get the freedom to go like, oh, maybe I would like to do something else. At one point I knew this is not really what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I am pretty good at it. But like I needed something else to kind of like how do you call it, balance, you know, this and that. I mean, it's also hard to be in a place like Dubai and just fully go kumbaya, I want to do what I want to do. It's different when you're back home. You know, you can live with roommates or something, or crash at your parents. You don't have that luxury here. You know, you need to have a visa. You need to have, there's so many things that you need to have. You need to have a steady income, right? So I think around 2015, I did realize though that I do not know what I want to do, but I don't want to do this.
So when you say this is the marketing and the...
Just this, you know, I felt like, you know, like in Arab culture, sometimes I feel like it is very common that nobody asks us what we want to do. You go to school, you graduate, now you go to university, what do you want to do? I would like to be, no, what do you want to be? You want to do marketing, you want to advertise? Nobody really asks you. And then you're like, okay, advertising sounds cool. Okay, now you need to work. Oh, okay, I need to work. And then okay, your sister's in Dubai. Oh, I will go to Dubai. And then you're in Dubai and you're like, where do you want to work now? I don't know. Where can the CV take me? And then you give it to all of your friends. And then you could have been on the marketing side. You could have been on the supplier side. You can be at the agency side. And then one day somebody called me and said, come here. And I was like, okay, you're doing this now. I'm like, sure, yeah. What is this? We'll figure it out. And then you just find yourself like, well, I came here 2010. So like in 2015, I was just like, I'm just doing this job that I don't really think I want to do, you know, like, and I was looking at some people around me that are really like growing in that field and they're very passionate about that. And for me, it was every day like a job from 9 to 6. I was not passionate about it. I was always passionate about, now there is lunch, now I would leave. You know, it's not like I was lazy or anything, but I just knew I wasn't.
It didn't give you that kick that you needed.
And I was actually a bit depressed at that point because it's like, I'd like to know what I want in life. I just didn't know anything. Like I didn't know if I wanted to be here, not be here, if I wanted to be with someone, be on my own. Like, what am I good at? What am I not? You know, and then you look around and like some friends are really good at singing, some are really good at drawing. And it's like, yeah, I'm a little bit good at everything, but like, I just don't feel I'm specialized in anything, you know? And I felt a bit like demotivated and like, am I just going to be someone or no one or anyone, you know, just one employee in this company? So then I just woke up one morning and it hit me. And I was like, this is not a bad place to be in, but I think I need to leave to figure out what I want. And I also have a terrible fear of being alone. So I was like, I am going to leave this place, stop relying on people around me, and just shock myself the worst way possible. Travel to Bali. I know it's a cliche, but I did Google safest place for women and Bali pops up as number 1, okay? And just go to Bali, pack my bags. And then I got there and I sat in that hotel and I was like, what did I do? Sold my car, I sold everything. I had nothing. I had one suitcase.
Wow.
That's all I had. And I took that with me.
So that all happened within that span of time when you decided saying, okay, you've had enough.
Yeah, I've had enough. I had a big farewell. Everybody was so excited. Everybody's so jealous of this life I'm going to have. I'm going to be a surfer and things are going to be so good. And then it just felt a bit like, I just got there and I was just like, okay, this is great. This feels really weird. What am I doing here? I left everything. Yeah. And but that was like the best experience that could have happened to me because I had left. And I'm like, even if I say I want to do something and I don't like it, I'm very persistent and I go with it. I finish everything I start. Wow. I would never just stop in the middle. I'd like to see things through because I can't bear living with the thought of I didn't give it my all. And then one day wake up and wonder, could I have done this any differently and regret? Like I can't deal with regret. That is something I can't deal with. So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna go back on a plane. Like, how does this look like? Like all my friends, like they were all there at this farewell. Like I'm not just gonna leave. So then, I got my stuff together.
But also at this time you were using up all your savings, if I'm correct, because
I mean, as a German, I was pretty well planned and situated so and how much I can spend per day. So I had that all figured out. Great. I gave myself a 6 months timeline in Bali. Nice. I knew I had to leave for a month in between for a visa run. So I went for a month to Sydney. Spent also some time in Singapore. Like it was the best experience because usually I'm like, I don't travel alone. I always need to travel with someone. Like, what a waste of like getting a ticket, going somewhere, and then I always need some company. Like I need to have fun. I need to always be entertained. Yes. So this time was the first time I had to rely on myself for entertainment and just make friends. Like I'm quite sociable, but I'm not good at walking up to strangers. Right? You give me that green light, and then I'm all game. Yeah, so I made some beautiful connections. I had a great time. And it was also, again, like food in Bali is just amazing. Like I didn't go to any of the fancy restaurants. I would go to the warungs. I would
Street
get food
food,
poisoned,
yeah.
and I would go back to the same place and try it again, blame my white person stomach, you know? So yeah, it was a really, really good experience. And then I, 6 months later, came back to Dubai just because that time was done. Still thought I wasn't ready for Dubai. And then I had an opportunity to go to LA.
Nice.
And then because I was all in that, you're such a free spirit now. You have one suitcase. You can go wherever you go.
Backpack.
So then, you know, I was seeing someone that said, why don't you come to LA? And I was like, yeah, why not? Yeah, that sounds great. I'm just going to go on a 16-hour flight to a country I've never been to. I was, if anything, too much of a yes person, you know?
Okay.
But that still served me really well because it was still in this whole experience of like, get out of your comfort zone. You know, don't ask questions, just do it. Eat, go, fall in love, whatever. Like, what is the worst that's going to happen? You're going to have a great experience. You have a great story to tell, you know?
I think figuring out things as you go is more interesting than having a template in hand saying, okay, I'm going to do this at this
Exactly.
time.
I can't, like, if I see a door, I must know what's behind it. I can't just walk by it. And even if that door is scary, whatever, you just close it and walk back out. But at least you tried. So really in LA is where my passion for food increased even more because it's such a melting pot for all types of different cuisines, right? So you have like the Asian culture, the Asian community, and you have the Mexicans, the Hispanics, everything. And then all these beautiful marriages of food come together, you know, like my favorite thing at one point was tacos, right? I was like, this is so cool. So you have this piece of bread, right, made out from corn or something else, and it's very inexpensive, and you have infinite toppings, you know, and it's just, I mean, I know there's some good places here, but the way I ate tacos over there was blew my mind. Like every day I would just like, okay, so taco for $1, I want this, I want this, I want that. So yeah, like my senses food-wise were just like blown away. And then because I had just gotten to LA and I kind of like had all my spendings, all my savings had kind of gone out the drain. I had to wait for my green card. So I'm just sitting in this gray zone of like, can't really go out and buy all this food that I want to eat. So I must make it myself now. So this is where I really started to start making my own tacos, start making my own stuff, and then invite family and friends. And at one point, even I was thinking of like, maybe I should turn this into a business kind of thing, like similar to my supper club now. But then I was like, no, I'm not going to be the white girl who came to America to make tacos. Like there's tacos all over the place, right? It's like coming here, it's very hard to have a Lebanese supper club, you know, with all the great Lebanese food that you can have. So you want something that stands out. But I did have a lot of free time on my hands there, and I was just doing everything from scratch. I was doing bread from scratch. I was doing pasta from... So this is really how I got more into food, of not just putting a package together with some great ingredients and making something cool. Just like going more and more, scratching the surface of like the actual ingredients, you know?
This all wasn't learned anywhere in institute?
At this point, I had not gone to any institute. And I had just started discovering, actually, I even went on YouTube and I was like, how to cut like a chef. And I was like, no, I want to do this properly. I was like, I kept trying to bear claw, and I remember how difficult that was. And I was like, it needs to look natural. Which brings me back, I remember when I was 14, everybody was started to smoke in Lebanon. I was like, me and my best friend were like, we have to start smoking. We're like, yeah, but we don't look stupid. So we have to practice at home. We practice for like a whole day how to smoke and inhale properly, so that when we start sitting with people, it looks like we've always been smoking.
This is the craziest thing I've heard.
So this is what I wanted to look like if anybody sees me hold a knife. And then I started to do that. And that's a good thing with internet, right? You can just go online and there's videos now. So how to cut like a pro, how to do this like a pro, how to not do this and look like an idiot. So, and again, I had so much time on my hands. So yeah, that's what I was doing there. Came back, and then I spent some time in LA. And then I think I really realized that Dubai is actually an opportunity, you know, but it's different. Here, I'm coming back at like almost 30. And I think I was 30 when I came back. And when I came here, I was 21 the first time. Like, the first time I didn't really have options. I just like followed, you know, what my parents wanted me to do.
Because your sister was here, you said, okay.
Yeah, you know, you're just here. You're like, you didn't really, it's not like I didn't appreciate it, but I didn't know I didn't know what I can do with this place, right? Yeah. So then having been there, and I mean, once you live here and you see the opportunities, and then you compare it to, you know, the Western world, you're like, oh, I actually have everything I need there. And in terms of opportunity, I think that's there, you know, and like the same job you do back home, you do in Dubai, but you kind of get paid more for it. Yeah. Okay, of course, every now and then, you know, I'm not saying it's perfect, but you can find what's as close as perfect to you. Yeah.
So you like had a Dubai calling kind of a thing.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm in Hollywood. Los Angeles is great, but I feel like I'm always poor. Everything that I want to do, you know, it's just like that life that we see on TV. Like you see Venice Beach on TV. It's like this beautiful strip, and everyone's like in the Barbie movie, having a great time. In reality, Venice Strip is all just junkies and homeless people, and you can't really walk because homeless people over there are also mentally
disturbed,
like unstable, right? So it's just not what you see. You see something on TV, and then you see the reality, you know? I know it's different when you live somewhere and you're raised like that, you know, it becomes home. But for me, having first lived in Lebanon, you know, which is a very secure place. I mean, a part of politics and stuff. And then having been here and again feeling very safe, having lived in Bali and feeling safe, and then having gone to LA and I did not feel safe. I'm not going to get into like how homeless people try to break in, but that did happen 2 times. It's like, what am I doing here? Like, yeah, this is great, but like vacation days, income taxes, like all these things, you know, and I have family here, like not too much, but like everything just felt so far away, like 12 hours time difference, you know, like their 9 a.m. is my 9 p.m. It was awkward. And I did try to go into media there. So I did everything. I got the job. Before I got a job, I would pick up furniture from the street that people throw out, take it home, brush it up a little bit, sell it on all these websites as like antique stuff because you just need to sell a story. So that worked out. And then I was like, okay, I did this American life. This is great. Thank you very much. I want to go back to Dubai.
Okay.
I have some things in mind that I want to do. And I knew that I wanted to go to culinary school, but I wanted to do it in Dubai because I know I can get myself a job here, back in media, and kind of like do this simultaneously. And it worked out exactly like that. So came here, went to culinary school. Of course, it's not like you walk out and everybody just becomes the best chef, but you do walk out and whatever you were good at is sort of like fine-tuned. It's a little bit like life hacks on crack, right? It's just like, instead of you seeing something on Instagram that goes like, oh, I never knew that before, it's just fed to you all the time. And there's so many basics, so many important things that you learn in culinary school that are, you know, very essential to anything that you do, and how to store and how to whatever. I mean, you've talked to other chefs, I'm sure they've...
The proper way of how to do...
and the proper way is all about saving time, right? How to save costs, how to save time, you know, but how to do things right. So it was a really, really good experience. So just during culinary school, I also had some time to kind of like... I really miss tacos. And my partner back then was really into that too. And I was constantly like pushed into like, make me this, make me that. We miss this back from home, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I like when people ask me to do something, you know, this is like, okay, this is a great idea.
Okay.
I got this. Oh, but you've never done this before. I was like, don't worry, I got this. And they're going to be perfect and it's just going to be as good. So then I wanted to kind of start by introducing tacos. So this is in like, let's say 2019, something like that. And there weren't too many Mexican restaurant joints around here. I think now we have some good stuff. But back then I kind of just missed having that traditional taco, not meat with cheese and stuff, you know, what you would get at like, so I tried to start off with like a taco supper club. According to guests, it went great. According to me, it was just like a lot of work because in the essence, it's, I don't want to say it's fast food like a burger, but it's fast paced, right? Like you have your hot bread, you need a topping. It's like battery work. Like this person does this person does that, It needs to go on your plate, in your mouth. So for one person with no help from anyone, trying to feed 8 people, you know, 6-course tasting menu of tacos in due time and it all to be hot was just too much work. So no matter how much I priced it for the person, it was just like, this concept is not working. It doesn't work for one person to do homemade. If I maybe had help or, you know, my partner was into that too, kind of like serving and stuff, then it would have probably worked a bit better, but that was a one-man show. So then I kind of like killed that subject for a bit, and that's really when COVID hit. And we all had to stay home. I was done with culinary school. And you know how during COVID, we were all hanging around with this one group of people? And if this one group of people went and saw anyone else, we're like, who did you see? Did they have a report that they're healthy? So you went and saw somebody outside of this group. I think you need to quarantine. So we were constantly together. So it was a bunch of guys and girls, and we were mostly hanging around at my apartment. I had a very big kitchen, and because I was into cooking, somebody else was into DJing, somebody else was into making drinks. Everybody kind of had their role, and there was nothing really better to do than to have brunch every day. Right?
Sounds like a party every day.
Cocktails. Okay, is it happy hour? I was like, sure, it's 11. It's COVID. It's always a good time. So there was just a lot of like feasting at home. And then because I had done pasta all the time, the guys were like, okay, let's do pasta all together. And I was like, oh, pasta for 6 people, you know, that's a lot of work for one person. I mean, you've come to the you've come to the pasta making.
Scratches.
You can see how much work it is. It looks really chill, you know, but like making that for a big group of people. And back then I had one pasta machine, and like I had less tools than I have today. Also space-wise, etc. So I was like, no, I'm not doing this alone. We are going to make this into a workshop. Went on Amazon, ordered a few nice things. We did a really nice setup. And then we were just posting things online of like the pasta experience and stuff. And then people were like, this is so great. How can we do this?
Wow.
And I was like, oh, this sounds like a good business plan. So once kind of like the situation got easier and people kept inquiring, because then it started to become my thing, just like making pasta and posting. So I was like, yeah, sure. This exists. This is the pasta making class, you know, so we make pasta and then you get to eat it in like a family style late lunch. And it's BYOW, right? Because I thought that makes sense. It's much easier for people to just bring what they want to drink. The first time I did try to, because I wasn't familiar with the subject, I was like, I'll serve alcohol. And I was like, I don't know, like I can't cook because I have to constantly gin tonic. What do you want? Ginger ale, something, you know? I was like, this is not gonna work. So BYOW turned out to be perfect. And so then I had a couple of these going on, and that was really cool. And I had a really good time, you know, in the class itself, because, you know, actually making pasta is not as difficult as you think. You know, I have people that come, they've never cooked or anything, and I tell them, you don't need to cook. You have an egg and you have flour. You just need to knead. You need to knead for a while, And sometimes you need to knead a little bit longer. Sometimes you need to add a little bit more water. Sometimes you add a little bit more flour. So there's not too much that can go wrong when you knead out a pasta dough. And also, it doesn't really have to rest like, like a focaccia dough or something. There's no yeast involved.
It's like a therapy also. The whole experience feels very soothing and very nice.
And I feel like when guests come, and especially the ones that have never done anything, and they get to do it, there is this pride. There's like, look at my dough. I made this. She didn't help me. No, it was me. I did this on my own. It's kind of cute to see. So I was kind of getting a high from, people actually enjoying something that I'm so passionate about. And then the pasta dining experience was also organically born because people were like, so what if I only want to eat pasta? Like, this is another very great idea, Jane Doe. Okay, cool. And then I was like, how can I do that? But I didn't want to be known as like the Italian pasta queen. And people did try to say that in the beginning. They were like, oh, the Italian. And I would go straight away. I'm like, no, please. I'm not saying I don't want to be, but like I use pasta as a vehicle with my own sources, my own, and I try to be sustainable. I use only local ingredients, etc. Like trying to give back to the community wherever I am, right? So if I was in, I don't know, Timbuktu, I would use whatever is available there. So I came up with like a 6-course tasting menu. And it had things on the menu like a shish barak version and stuff, like things that I grew up with. And I mean, you've come to a few of these you've come to the last one. And like you can see, it's not your traditional Italian food. And pasta exists everywhere. I mean, you have it in your culture. You have it in... You really have a pasta version everywhere you go. And whenever I travel, even before I realized that this is what I want to do and this is what I'm into, I've always wanted to taste everything pasta. So wherever I traveled to, I would find the pasta dish of that country. Like I'd go to Georgia. I'm like, what is the pasta dish of this country? Wherever I go. Went to the States, I was like, mac and cheese. I was like, this is as good as it gets. Okay. But like, so that has always been my thing. And and even when I was really small, as a half German, I should really like potatoes. I don't really like potatoes. No, I'm not big on potatoes. I would always prefer a pasta side. So if my mom made like a stew, like a goulash, which I also had on the menu, I want it with buttered noodles. She gave me shit in the beginning, but then it just became my thing. And I would just eat it with buttered noodles. And then I did that on a menu for the guests. I was like, you're going to have the way that I eat it. And it was great. Obviously, it was an elevated dish, but still, why not?
It's a little bit of you in all the dishes.
Yes, thank you. I do add a little bit of. So that was kind of my thing. It was never about Italian pasta. It was just about, I love everything pasta. Even though I have a gluten intolerance. So you can see it's a tough love.
Wow.
But I suck it up because it tastes phenomenal. So that's really how the pasta dining experience started.
For a supper club, when people spend, X amount of money, so they want a full experience, which is, which is not like a restaurant experience. It's like a very intimate experience. So did you get lost in all of this, or were you clear about what kind of an experience you wanted to give them?
Of course, I think there's a lot of thought process that goes into anyone who tries to sell something. Am I being fair? Are people getting what they paid for? Am I cheating them? Am I asking for too much? Like, of course, you want to check all that before you put it out there, because you also want to be confident that when you do, and sometimes somebody says, oh, this is pretty expensive. You're like, no, this is not like for what you're getting at, and I'm not just talking about my supper club, but what you're getting at so many places, let's say at a price point of $375 to $450, you're getting a 6-course tasting menu. There's always a welcome drink. If you don't bring your drink, but you do want to drink, which you should always get your drink if you do want to drink, the host will never let you down. There's always an emergency because they don't want you to have a bad time. So you're having a 6-course tasting menu, sometimes 8, with some other people even more. And you walk out full. Entertainment is taken care for. It is the most comfortable space where it's okay to go completely on your own.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like, oh, you're here on your own, because you're all strangers,
Yes.
right? So it's actually even nicer to probably come on your own for a change, or come with your partner, but kind of like, you're here to meet other people. So you want to make sure that the concept you put out there is authentic, it's real, you're being fair, and you're passionate about it. Because once you are authentic, then you don't really have to sell too much anymore. People see that, And I've of course there has, like, I didn't really feel worried about my concept, because I did check the boxes for myself. I was like, are you being real? Are you being fair? Are you staying true to who you are, to what you believe in, to what you're passionate about? You say you're using these ingredients. Are you using these ingredients? Don't cheat your guests. In general, if there's something I believe in, it's karma. Don't cheat people, because it will come back to you. And don't think that just because they're not a chef, or they don't know how to put this dish together, that they're not going to be able to taste that you have changed something, or maybe used a cheaper produce or something. And this is also a thing in Dubai. Like, how many places do we go to that were great, and then the trend is it just doesn't taste the same? What did they change? Did they change the chef? Did they start to get stingy, cheap, add a little bit of MSG powder here and there, right? And you can also tell from your body afterwards. It tells you everything. You go home and you're like, okay, this tastes like I had MSG today. And if it wasn't there, you feel different.
Because I've seen you going and picking up things, because when we were trying to work on a project, I remember you saying that you have the people that you go and buy things from, whether it's meat or, fruits, and you wake up early, and all of this is sourced before, you cook a meal. So there is nothing that you leave as something wherein, you don't ignore the little detail, which makes that experience a perfect one.
What I did learn, for example, at culinary school, which I really took away from one of the chefs, was especially when it comes to eating meat produce, right? Us as people, if we're in a bad mood, or we're upset or something, like our muscles are tense, our body language is off. And animals are exactly the same way, right? So there is a difference. So if you're consuming a cow or a chicken, beef, whatever it is, it does make a big difference to kind of know that animal has been eating well and been treated well, because it's a living being at the end with a soul. So you're consuming that anger or that happiness or anything like that. And a lot of times when people are like, I've been to places where it's like, I've cooked this meat for ages and it's still chewy. I'm like, it was a sad cow. That's why, especially when it comes to meat, like, I almost know the name of the cow. I cannot not eat meat. I think back in the days, I think the way we used to eat 100 years ago is the right way. It wasn't, you weren't able to have chicken or meat every day. It was not available. You have like 4 chickens running around. So this week we eat one, then they make more, they will grow. By the time these are grown up, we'll have run out of these. The way we eat eggs, makes also a difference. Sometimes I play that game with guests. I'm like, okay, if you see the difference in organic egg, this one might be yellow, this one is a little bit orange. Sometimes you get 2 yolks because you can't control nature. Guests always like to ask me, so was your flour from this pasta the best ever? And I almost wait for that question, because I'm like, thank you for asking. This is local flour. Okay. This is not fancy flour brought in from Italy. I know that we don't necessarily grow the grain here. We don't produce it here, but we're able to grow it, and we have a couple of suppliers. Something I took away whenever I did go to Italy or anywhere else: what makes this dish so amazing? What makes this tomato so great? What makes anything great? If you really listen, they never say it's Italy, it's anything. It's like, it's from my garden, it's from my butcher, it's from here. It's never about only eat Italian tomatoes, only get Italian flour. It is, listen, they're saying eat local,
Yeah.
eat fresh,
Yeah.
be sustainable.
Yeah.
This is what they're actually trying to tell you.
Yeah.
And then we go to the supermarkets here, and there's like these tomatoes from Holland, this and that, and nobody wants to touch the UAE tomatoes. What do you mean? Just store them. And I also like to give tips to guests, and I've been thanked for them, like how to store your onions, how to store your tomatoes. Leave them a little bit on the balcony. They'll absorb some sun, and then they're sweet.
Wow.
And then you can just bring that own flavor. It's all about storing. But what happens at like when you go to the supermarket, that tomato that you see, that is just for show. It's just like a shell of a tomato. It looks beautiful because they're giving it to you at this moment, but it has went on a trip, it went to the airport, it went on a plane, it came back down, it went to security control, it went back out, it went back in. How great has the life of that tomato been in that short period of time, right? It's been exposed to so many different temperatures.
I think one last thing I would want to ask you is for Joe and for the pasta experience, what's the next?
Let me see if I want to say that. Obviously, this is the direction I want to go in. I would, of course, down the line, like to go bigger. I do have some ideas in mind, but I think the journey that I'm still on now has been working out for me because I still get to try out new recipes, with more guests, more word of mouth. All of that is coming together. And I don't just want to be a person who's like, tomorrow I want to open a restaurant. Like, I'm a perfectionist. When I do things, I will do them right and I will give it everything. And, if somebody comes up to me today and goes like, here, I'm ready to invest, great, we'll talk about it there.
Yeah.
But I have not got to that stage yet. But I personally also, I'm not chasing going out there and going like, okay, I must open today. Like, I'm not in a rush. Things are working out the way I want to. I'm still kind of like growing my brand, growing myself. And I think you'll find that moment where this is it. Yeah. I must do it now. I did think at one point, it was towards end of last year. And then I was like, no, I think I'm going to push it a bit further. And you do get pressured from people because they're like, Shujo, yalla, restaurant, what is next? Yeah. And at one point I was pressured. I was like, I must open this restaurant now because,
that's the next level.
I must because everyone's asking me, but I don't have to do anything for anyone. You should put my number for investors. Okay, they can reach out to you just in case. We can talk. It's not off the table. I definitely want to go bigger. I don't know if I want to go into details about the concept, but it will be a little bit of everything. It will be my personality, everything that I like reflected in that. I don't just want to have a place where you come and eat. I wanted to
I can see that.
touch many points.
Yeah.
Entertainment, interaction. Like, I will never want to stop the workshops. I don't know if it will be like a communal space or something. I'm still figuring that out. But yeah.
Excited. I think time will tell. We'll know.
Yeah, because once that turns around, that is all I want to do. That's all I want to be involved with.
Thank you so much, Joe, for making the time today and talking to us about your love for pasta. And I only know that this is just going to be bigger and better. Knowing you, you're not going to do anything less.
Inshallah. Where's some wood I can knock on?
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. What do? We kiss now?